Welcome back to story time on my history with La Güerita. It's known that I exposed Candace's real deportation story. Not her deportation story, that is. Okay, Candace and I were mutuals, but she was friends with Julia. Julia AG111. She's known on TikTok for attacking other content creators. I was her first one. And back in 2021. In fact, I think right now she's in the middle of another bullshit. She's the same one that started um, rumors about Itati. So she does not have a very good rap sheet on TikTok. When she attacked my platform, she created a group chat of content creators that would mass report my shit, including Candace. The receipts of this eventually came out, and I posted them on my YouTube channel. I talked about it on TikTok, etc. So, long story short, this was a group of content creators that were mass reporting my pages, and they weren't just doing stuff like that. They went as far as to find local Facebook groups of where I lived, create these posts that shared a narrative that I was dangerous, that I had been deported for A, B, C, and D, that I was stealing money, that I was scamming people, and they were tagging the cartel. Okay. They went as far as to try to get me on the cartel's radar for scamming people. Okay. They went as far as to try to get me on the cartel's radar for scamming people. Candace was friends with her the entire time. She expressed public support to her the entire time. She unfollowed me and blocked me during that time. Never really understood why. I didn't ask her. I just kind of left it and assumed, well, they're friends. And so she's taking Julia's side. Okay. Eventually, when the receipts came out, about a year later, one of Julia's followers, that somebody that was in that group chat, leaked all the receipts and sent them to me. And it showed me how much they had done behind the scenes. It showed me everybody's involvement. So I started calling people out. I was making content. I never made a video about Candace, but naturally, because she was so publicly supportive to Julia, people started asking her questions like, what is your involvement in all of this? I hadn't addressed her at all. I hadn't talked about her. I hadn't brought her up in this. I had left her completely out of it. Okay, so her first statement about this, and this is what triggered everything. This was the first statement she made about me. Okay, I didn't speak on her first. I didn't talk about her story first. So on her YouTube channel, somebody asked her, "Hey, I've been following you for a while. I've been supporting you in your family's journey. Please clarify your involvement with Julia." Okay, because she had been publicly supporting her. Julia went as far as to go to her house in Puebla. They were besties, right? Her response was, "I have met Julia, her husband, and some of his family here in Mexico in person, and we were friends, but are not anymore as of recently of what's come out. I have blocked all three of the creators, Annie, Julia, and PJs, as I believe they're all dangerous individuals." Okay. She made that statement as a way to wash her hands. And she only defriended Julia when I dropped the receipts. Not during the time that Julia was doing all that fuckery to me. Not during the time that I was getting targeted. Not during the time that she was in that group chat. Okay. I didn't understand why she called me dangerous when I was statement threw me over the edge with her. Up until that point, I had never spoken on her. I had never said anything, even though she was publicly supporting the content creator that was targeting my platforms, that was targeting my children, that was trying to get the cartel on me. For those of you, and so when she did that, she made sure to scrub all of her platforms with any content of Julia and the collabs that they had done. Okay, I'm going to show you this here. This is Candace. This is Julia. Y'all remember? Y'all know who this girl is, right? She's very known for this type of shit. So this was taken during the hate campaign. Okay, during the time that Julia was publicly attacking me over and over and over. They were collabing during this time. Okay. I want to make it clear that Candace was aware of everything that was being done because not only was it public, you guys remember all the shit Julia was posting, but it was also in a private group chat that Candace was fucking in. The receipts of that group chat are also on my YouTube channel. So she supported her up until I showed the receipts of that group chat. And then she scrubbed her channel of anything that had to do with Julia. And she made the statement that we were all dangerous individuals. Okay. That is why I came after, that is why I responded to Candace. Okay. So for everybody that is always like, why would you do this? That was why. I hadn't done anything to Candace. She had already unfollowed me and unblocked me. I never spoke on her. I never included her in anything until that statement that she publicly made. Because what was so dangerous about me? Was it my felonies? Was it that I was selling cups? Whatever, right? So that's the reason that I pulled Fidel's background, because I said that's diabolical for you to refer to me as dangerous when look who you're sleeping next to. I'm going to show you her part during the hate campaign and the content that Candace made co-signing Julia. Please hold. You guys remember that during this time in 2022 is when I dropped my one-on-one consultations. I charge $50 to sit one-on-one with my followers, and I provide several types of assistance. Okay. This was right after she unfollowed me and unblocked me. Okay. Candice made a video. I'm going to show you that video right now.
Good afternoon from Mexico. First, I want to say thank you for this comment, but it also made me think about something. Back when I was facing this move, over 6 years ago, I was in a very vulnerable and desperate situation, and I was searching for a lot of answers that I couldn't find. And not just answers, but just some reassurance. And so when I started this social media journey, when we started it, over 2.5 years ago, I remember having a conversation with Fidel where we talked about things that we would, make sure we never did with our content, with our platform. And one of those things was, taking advantage of others in this situation or just in a vulnerable situation in general. And we also wouldn't support anyone else doing that, whether it be content creators, attorneys, the list goes on. And please don't get me wrong. I understand that, there are people that feel like their time is valuable. I feel like my time is valuable. But for us, one of the things that comes with our platform, and in our opinion, is making sure that, we don't forget where we came from. We don't forget what we went through. And if any person told me, I can give you these answers and all you have to do is pay me for it, back then I would have done it. But for me, if I or we expected anything in return, it would feel to me like we were taking advantage of people in this situation. And neither of us will ever be okay with that. And I include Fidel in this. So we have always wanted to just make sure that part of the things that come from our platform are that people in this situation or whatever situation can hopefully find some answers to the questions that they have. And honestly, some reassurance. And I will tell you that since posting that video, I think 3 days ago, I have received 561 emails about working from home. And I work full-time, I content create full-time, and of course I have my family, so it is going to take me a minute to get through all of those. So please be patient, but I promise you'll get answered. But I am incredibly grateful that sharing our story has given us the opportunity to help. And I will always give that help without any expectations, because I remember what it was like to be in those shoes.
She dropped that video right after I dropped my one-on-one consultations. I started doing consultations in 2022 to create an income for my children. I charge $50 to sit down one-on-one with people, whether that's US-based work, whether that's talking about random shit, okay? So she made that video in the middle of the hate campaign and pretty much said, I don't agree with people charging. I'll do it for free because I would never take advantage of people. I would never charge you for this. I would never, in a vulnerable, blah, blah, blah. The problem comes with when she made her statement about I had nothing to do with it, they're dangerous people, they're blah, 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 blah. No, you were all up in it. You were a mean girl. You were friends with all the mean girls. And only when the receipts came out, then she threw her hands up and said, I had nothing to do with this. They're all dangerous people. I unfollowed them. Okay. So when I came out with the real deportation, so I'm the one that put out Fidel's criminal background. Okay. So let me show you why she made that video about Fidel's criminal history.
For educational purposes, research purposes only, of the real reason and the real story behind the deportation story of Candace, aka La Güerita. Candace has built a very large platform by sparing the details of the actual reason that her husband was deported. So here they are. Now you guys know that Candace's story has received nationwide attention and praise. And the story that has always been given to the news outlets is that Fidel was pretty much just deported for lack of documentation. And the story has been given by Candace that he was driving to work or from work one day, he was stopped and detained by ICE for just not having documentation. Fidel is actually a convicted felon for a felony DUI, which dates back to 2008. In this first case, he was charged with a felony DUI, possession of paraphernalia, and an open container. As part of his plea deal, the two bottom charges were dropped, and he pled guilty to the felony DUI. In one of the interviews that Candace did, she mentions that their nightmare began in May of 2016, and this is when Fidel was detained by ICE for just not having documentation. What actually happened is that Fidel had a hard time complying with the terms of his probation on his DUI case, and a warrant for his arrest had been issued in 2012, meaning he was a fugitive from 2012 until 2016 when he was stopped by the police. When he was stopped by the police in May of 2016, he was detained because he had active warrants for his arrest. In addition to the felony DUI, he was convicted in 2012 of assault, force to cause bodily injury, and domestic violence in the presence of a child. There's a lot of inconsistencies with the dates that Candace provided because as you see in this article, it states that he was deported on August 1st, 2017. However, one of his court documents lists that his deportation date was actually March 7th, 2012, which may likely mean that he re-entered illegally at some point and was then deported again in 2016. Now, if you're wondering why I'm bringing this to light, if you guys recall, Candace issued this statement about 3 to 4 days ago, labeling me, Julia, and Yesenia as dangerous individuals, washing her hands of the hate campaign. I didn't know anything. I'm not involved. I'm a sweet, innocent little white lady, and I'm afraid for my safety. Now you guys understand my response when I said that before she labeled anybody dangerous, she needed to be honest with her audience about the real reason why her husband was deported and why they live in Mexico.
I'm the one that put that out there. Yeah. And the reason why I felt compelled to do so, okay, she was asked about this. Okay, this was Candace explicitly telling the internet, my husband doesn't have a criminal record. He was deported for entering without documents when he was 7. So she lied. She lied, and I exposed her lies. After she made comments about me. After she labeled me dangerous. You know who's dangerous? Is probably violent offenders. That's who. So this is the reason why I came out. It wasn't that she omitted the truth. It wasn't that she just didn't want to share everything. She made a direct statement lying to her public that he was simply a victim of the immigration system for entering without documents. He was a convicted violent offender. He had entered unlawfully, he had already been deported, and he abused her. She left out the context of why she had to come clean. What put her in a corner to have to come clean, and it was me. But it wasn't unprovoked and it wasn't unwarranted. She came for me first. There was no need for her to make a statement labeling me dangerous because I hadn't done anything to her. I hadn't even spoken about her yet. Okay, so every time these creators speak on me and then I clear them with some type of receipt, then it's Annie's dramatic, Annie's problematic, Annie this, Annie that, blah, blah, blah. You came for me first. You spoke on me first. And if we're gonna talk about who's dangerous, start with the person you're sleeping next to. And those are just my humble personal opinions. She did a lot of damage control because of her public image. She was able to redirect the focus to the fact that I exposed her, that I shared, that it was not my story to tell, instead of the fact that she straight up lied to her audience. The focus, just the same way that the focus with Olga's bullshit has been not what she did, but deflected onto me for speaking up about it. That's the only fucking pattern in all these little fucking fallouts, is that it's easier to direct and manipulate the crowd into being, how dare you speak on this? This wasn't your story to tell. It's always, this wasn't your story to tell. She has been using her white privilege in our backyard for years. This was a perfect example of her white privilege because nobody was mad at her for lying. Nobody. To date, nobody's mad at her for lying. They're mad at me for... That's the history between her and I. And that's why she pretty much blacklists anybody that tries to work with me. When this happened, and eventually she was forced to make her video, and it's like, let's watch it. So then when people that don't have this context, they'll be like, oh, she told us why. No, she didn't. No, she didn't.
Someone told a story that wasn't theirs to tell, and they told it inaccurately. So, Fidel and I would like to tell you our story accurately.
Okay, let me stop there. I tell it inaccurately, Candace? Did you tell it inaccurately, Candace? Okay, so that's how her accountability started. That's how her accountability video started. Is already, she said she told a story that wasn't hers to tell, and she told it inaccurately. I'm just telling it off public records. Okay, so if you have a problem with the way that I narrated it, go take it up with the state of Utah. Okay, because that's what's out there.
We're asking that each and every one of you go to our YouTube channel and watch our latest video.
So she makes a video directing you to her monetized YouTube channel to get the real tea, right? To continue monetizing off of the community that she lied to, because this is not, did I fabricate this? You specifically said he doesn't have a criminal record. I didn't tell it inaccurately. I told it off of public records. And secondly, that turned, and that's exactly, so then her fan base went, that wasn't your story to tell. That wasn't your story to tell. That wasn't your story to tell. You're just jealous. Okay. You know what wasn't her story to tell was this right here. I never saw any energy for this. They are all dangerous individuals. Okay. That wasn't her story to tell. If she wasn't involved in this, then this wasn't her story to tell. Right? Labeling me as a white woman, labeling a minority as dangerous. You know what the fuck you were doing. And there's a lot of missing context. There's a lot of people just jumping into this and not understanding why I would take interest in her committing fraud allegedly. But the reason why I dropped that series isn't because I have nothing else to talk about. It's not because I'm trying to beat a dead horse. It's to give people context why I took interest in that video about the PPP loans. And I will also reiterate, the same way that she moved during the hate campaign is the same way she's moving now. And there are things that she has done behind the scenes currently, and it's why she has my attention again. And she knows exactly what it is. The only reason why I haven't exposed what it is because it involves other creators that I have respect for, and I don't want to drag into this mess. If she'll tell you guys, maybe, doubt it, highly fucking doubt it. But for those of you that know me and are not, just here to fucking stick up for Candice, there is a reason why I'm addressing this again. And it's not simply because I need to get my kids to Paris. It's not because I just run out of content. It's not because I just love drama. There are things going on privately. And I've said it since the beginning. The only difference between me and these bitches is that I do it publicly and loudly and transparently. They do it behind the scenes. Tiran la piedra y esconden la mano. So what has pissed me off is that the internet has held me to the highest fucking standard I have ever seen in my goddamn life. And you guys are mad at me because I'm trying to hold other people to that same standard that I've been held to for 5 years. Do you see my frustration with Candice, with all these bitches? Y'all have held me up here for years. Despite the fact that I've been accountable, I've been honest from the get, even when it's ugly, the good and the bad. Okay, so y'all are holding me up here. So when I'm trying to hold people up here, now I'm a problem. Now I'm problematic. Now I'm this. Now I'm that. Y'all are the problem. Y'all shouldn't have been holding me to such a high standard for 5 years. But little Miss Gringa is down here because why? Because she's a cute little white lady that only posts her family and guises behind the family content. If I was on here posting my kids and you guys got to know my kids, I guarantee you a lot of you would have more empathy from me. But because I choose to protect my kids from my platform, and you only see this fucking bad bitch, with a banging body and cute hair, so you have no empathy for me. You see what I'm saying? The hypocrisy. And because I choose to keep it real,
I'm still up here. But be so for real. Why is her standards down here? Because she's a US citizen and I'm up here. Why are her standards down here and mine are up here? Why are Olga's down here and mine are up here? Stop holding me to such a high standard if you don't agree with me holding people to the same standard. That's been the problem. Y'all created this little monster that y'all keep talking about. She's always beefing with people. She's always doing that. Well, y'all created this. Y'all held me fucking up here. And you still hold me up here for those felonies. But everybody else gets a pass. For child abuse, for DV, for lying, for allegedly fraud on your taxpayer dollars. I do think it's been very interesting to see how the public responded to her allegedly committing fraud. The amount of people that wrote it off just because she's a US citizen. The amount of people that wrote it off, but she doesn't hurt nobody, she just makes content about her kids. The amount of people that wrote it off because it's her and gave her a pass was crazy. Perfect example of the white privilege. I will die on that hill, because if it's not white privilege, what else is it? If it was another creator that was allegedly exposed for possibly committing fraud, for building a whole house out here with American taxpayer dollars, you're gonna tell me that they would respond the same and say that it's okay, there are PPP loans, everybody did it, they're a US citizen, they have a right to, she has a business, blah, 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 blah. Are you gonna honestly tell me that the public would write off anybody else committing this type of fraud? Because at the end of the day, disclosure, I can't confirm she committed fraud. I'm simply speculating she committed fraud with those tax loans. And even if she didn't, morally, I don't think it's right for you to be claiming life after deportation and how hard it is when the American government is providing for your family out here. The American taxpayers are building your house out here. So how the fuck are you out here pushing hashtag life after deportation? Bitch, you ain't living a deportation story. You're not. You're living a privileged story of an American citizen who is still getting the benefits of an American citizen, taking advantage of the lower cost of living in Mexico, and getting sympathy and donations for it at the same time. That is what I think. Even if, let me give you the benefit of the doubt, she had the right to this, she had the right to that. Okay. So why the fuck is she hashtag life after deportation? How the fuck are you relating to the struggle of deportation if the taxpayers are building your damn house? I'm going to clear up the speculations on the PPP loans with La Güerita. I've seen a lot of content circulating on this series, comments, other content creators making TikToks about this, so I'm going to set the record straight with receipts. This video is going to piss off a lot of you. I encourage you to watch the 6-part series that will give you context to this grand finale. We all know what the PPP loans were. Federal loans to help small businesses during the pandemic that were impacted by COVID. Exhibit 1 for your review, I pulled the application form for these loans. You needed to be a sole proprietor, partnership, C Corp, LLC, independent contractor, eligible self-employed individual, 501c, 501c19, tribal business, or a small business. I want you guys to pay attention to bullet 7, which specifies, is the United States the principal place of residence for all employees of the applicant included in the applicant's payroll calculation above? Candice would likely be classified as a self-employed individual, independent contractor. We knew that she pulled 2 loans in the amount of $5,500, both of which were forgiven, so essentially this was free money. And she filed these under her name, not a business. So it's safe to assume that she filed these as a self-employed individual. The primary place of residence for the employees being covered by these PPP loans would need to be the United States. Candice has registered an LLC by the name of La Güerita 70 LLC, where she explains what her company does. She states, I'm a content creator on social media platforms, including YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. I create videos about my life. Based on her LLC registration, I'm going to say it's safe to assume that the business she pulled the loan for is her content creating. I want you to pay attention to Article 3 that says the company shall maintain an agent in the state of Utah for service of process who is individual residing in said state. She listed herself as the agent of the company that is residing in Utah. We know that Candice does not reside in the state of Utah. She has been documenting her life in Mexico since early 2020, and she has also shared that she has obtained immigration status of a permanent resident in Mexico.
So right off the bat, her LLC is not in compliance. The LLC was filed in 2020 when Candice was already living in Mexico. So I can assert that she made a false statement when obtaining that LLC. Back to the PPP loan. The federal government, after a lawsuit, was forced to make this information public. Candice was issued 2 separate loans, both in the amount of $5,500, both of which were forgiven. Pay attention to the dates, May 2021, April 2021. Remember that the purpose of these loans was for small businesses that were impacted by COVID. Not entirely sure how a content creator would be severely impacted by COVID to the point where they need to pull out a loan. In July of 2021, just 2 months after they pulled those loans, is when they started the construction of their home. Now, call me crazy, but the math is not mathing. If you are a small business owner claiming that you are being severely financially impacted by COVID to the point where you need to pull a government loan to cover your payroll, but at the same time, you are starting the build of a brand new home. At the bottom of all of her house building videos, she included her Venmo and Cash App asking for donations, or indirectly asking for donations. Remember that the deportation story that was sold was that this family was a victim of the immigration system, and they were and her husband was deported for being at the wrong place at the wrong time. When it came out a few years later that he was actually a 2-time violent offender that was deported twice for violent acts against her and other things. So to summarize my closing statements, I've seen a lot of comments that she was entitled to these loans for being an American citizen. I just want to remind you guys that the federal government prosecuted many people for these loans because they obtained them fraudulently by making false statements, by obtaining them for businesses that didn't even exist. A lot of people pulled them individually, just like she did when they didn't even have a business. There's been speculation that she has some type of U.S. registered business, that she may have employees in the U.S., etc. If she had employees in the U.S., would she not list them as a registered agent on her LLC? Instead of fraudulently listing herself, knowing that she doesn't reside in the state of Utah and doesn't fulfill the qualifications for an LLC. So in summary, I can confirm that she made false statements to receive her PPP loans, and she made false statements to receive her LLC certification. We can clear the comments of these statements being defamatory, of these being allegations. This is all information available through public records, and it supports my personal opinion of the white privilege because, ironically, I was deported for committing fraud. Here we have an American citizen that has also committed fraud and is enjoying the privilege of both countries, is receiving benefits from American taxpayers to sustain her family, also affected by deportation for committing crimes of moral turpitude, now living in Mexico. There is a double morality, there's a double standard, and now all these comments of you guys clearing her for the simple fact that she's a USC just highlights the privilege that does not decline in our own backyard.